Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this very special live edition of The Conversation. Today we'll be discussing a very interesting topic: how much repair and trust handle. Gather your family around, gather your friends around, create a watch party, and join us as we have this wonderful session this evening. God's promise to you is a love that lasts forever. Hallelujah. So God says He's loved you with an everlasting love. With loving kindness, He's drawn you to Himself. It doesn't matter what the hurt is. It doesn't matter what the pain is. It doesn't matter what the storm your life is going through at the moment. It doesn't matter how dark it is. He says He's committed to you forever. His love for you is forever. It's a long-time promise, a lifetime commitment is made to you. Hallelujah. I'll be committed to you. I'll never leave you. Nothing in this world will make me walk away. No matter what life may bring, I'll be by your side. No matter what you face, you won't be lonely. Because forever is a long time, and that's how long I love you. And that's how long I love you. Forever, forever is a long time, and that's how long I love you. That's how long I love you. Forever, no matter what life may bring, I'll be by your side. No matter what you face, you won't be lonely. And this is my promise to you. My love is everlasting. You can count on me to be there always. Forever is a long time, and that's how long I'll love you. That's how long I'll love you. Forever, God says forever is a long time. It's a promise of eternity. That's how long I'll love you. Forever, forever is a long time. Think about it.
That's how long I'll love
How long is forever?
That's how long I'll love you.
Forever. You gotta know that I will.
I'll love you.
I love you.
I'll love you.
For the rest of your life, I
I'll love you.
will. How long? You gotta believe that I will.
I'll love you.
It's my commitment to you.
I'll love you.
I love you.
I'll love you.
Good evening and welcome to The Conversation. I am your host and always glad to come into your space and coming to your homes, bringing you engaging conversations that are life transforming, mind molding, and paradigm shifting. Today's conversation promises to be an exciting one. And you know, every time I'm on the set of the conversation, I mentally go right through all the conversations that we have had since we began hosting this special broadcast March, April last year. And it has been such an amazing time. I was having a conversation with a man a couple of weeks ago, and he had the opportunity to tell me about one of the conversations that we had sometime last year. And he said, you know, I belong to a group of men, women who are entrepreneurs and professionals in our own fields. And when we looked at, you know, there was a particular conversation, the one we had with Kole Shorion. He said it blessed us more than any other program we were exposed to. And we voted that conversation the best conversation for the year 2020. I mean, so for their own group, that was the one that made an impact. And I'm sure that for other people as well, one conversation must have blessed you, must have affected you, must have changed your life. And I can tell you that beyond the shadow of a doubt, this conversation will truly change your life and make a difference in your life. And today we're going to be looking at the topic, how much repair can trust handle? How much repair can trust handle? For those of you who are joining us through live stream, well, click your share button on your devices and share this broadcast with your friends so that you can bring other people into this experience today and into this amazing conversation. With me on the set, I am glad to have as guests today Mrs. Ogogo Okolo. I hope I'm pronouncing it Ogogo Okolo. Don't blame me. I pronounce my name well. Other names I struggle with, but I think I still try. Ogogo Okolo, and she is a clinical embryologist. Whatever that may mean, we will find out. It means she deals with embryos in the clinic. I mean, so you know, I just try to respond to these things as a lame person. And we have with us also Uche Oniemola. Okay, again, we give room for questions, and it's part of what makes the conversation exciting. And so as, you know, we begin and to roll, if you've got questions, it will do you a lot of good if you can write it down and you can, you know, push it to some of our ushers. For those of you who are joining us through the different platforms, you can post the comments and we'll have our media team extract those questions. We will do our best to take as many questions as possible today. We cannot guarantee that all questions will be taken because we have limited time, but we'll do our best to ensure that questions are taken. Now, we're looking at a very, very sensitive topic, and is a subject of trust. And trust is the foundation for any relationship. Without trust, there can be no relationship, whether it's between a man and woman or business relationship. As long as it is defined, you know, as a relationship, trust is key and it's foundational to it. Incidentally, trust is a heavy word that is often uttered lightly. It's thrown around all over the place, but it's a weighty word in itself. Trust is value, and it's a value that must be found in our interactions and in our engagements with people. Some of the elements of trust are reliability, honesty, transparency, openness, and keeping your word. I'm saying this to lay a foundation for the discourse that we're going to have. And I trust that it's already drawing your minds to the subject that is at focus. A prime minister of the United Kingdom by the name Harold Macmillan said, "A man who trusts nobody is apt to be the kind of man nobody trusts." And that is powerful itself, that you can't live your life and say, "I don't trust anybody," because if you say that, then you are most likely someone that cannot be trusted as well. In today's world, we're finding out that the breach of trust is becoming alarming. And that's the reason why we have come here today to look at this subject of trust and how much can trust take? How many times can trust be broken for it to get to a point where it is irreparable? So I want to start with Pastor Uche, and I want us to begin, and I want to ask you this question. I think the mic is on. What are the most likely causes of a breach of trust in marriage? What are the most likely causes? Because there are many, and I know you know, but what are the most likely causes of a breach of trust in marriage?
Thank you so much, Pastor Sola. This is quite an interesting conversation we're having today, and I like the perspective we're looking at. Trust, as you stated, is a weighty word. It's something we take for granted until it's breached, until it's broken. You take things for granted. You take the fact that as a child, you trust your parents. You have to trust them anyway until you have no more reason to trust them. Coming to a marriage relationship, some of the most likely causes, as I've found, for breach of trust is, I will mention just two to start with. The first is infidelity.
And I think that's a big one.
Yes, it's a big one, because until you've gone through infidelity, you don't know how painful it can be. Infidelity is one of the most devastating things you can go through in a married relationship. And very few couples recover. And even when they do recover, sometimes it's never the same. So infidelity is one big issue. Another thing coming to our climb is lack of transparency in financial matters. So many people, for one reason or the other, maybe we'll get to talk about them later today or some other time, have decided not to be transparent in their financial dealings. And a lot of homes are reeling under the impact because people are finding out terrible things, people are struggling, people are doing terrible things with money that their spouses don't know about, or they're hiding money, or they're not just stating or declaring what is available or what they have done prior to getting married or even in the marriage. So these two things can really cause a lot of damage to trust.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure that, things are already beginning to, burn in our minds. Now, is there, I was reading an author who said marriage has many stages. So is there, in your own experience, a stage when issues of infidelity are more likely to begin, and, issues of mistrust or distrust? Is it hormonal, or there's no categorization? Because someone may say, well, everything's going to be fine until you get into your 40s. People speak about the midlife crisis as well, when they're going through a phase of transition and things begin to change. People speak about menopause and how things can change. So is there any, particular age stage when these things happen, or it can happen at any time?
Yeah, the thing is, really, every marriage has the potential for infidelity to occur.
The potential.
The potential. If that it does not occur depends on a number of factors. So just bear in mind that for every marriage, that potential exists. Because when you get married, You don't suddenly go blind. The fact that you're married does not mean that you have somehow lost the ability to be attracted to another
Somebody
person.
else.
Yes. The potential for that attraction exists. It depends on how you handle it. Now, coming to the stages on the point where infidelity is most common, I would say in the early years, it's most common for the men to be the unfaithful partners. Their hormones are still raging, they've just gotten married, and given a number of factors, some of which maybe we'll discuss, maybe incompatibility in sexual matters, their philosophy about marriage. One critical thing about marriage, it matters the philosophy of marriage that your partner has. There's some people who just believe that it's not possible to be faithful to one person. That's their philosophy. So, given that philosophy, they are most likely to breach that trust by being unfaithful
From the beginning.
from the beginning. And again, biologically, most men have a higher sexual drive than most women. But in the later years, interestingly, women seem to catch up. Most women come into their own as they get older. They've had children. Maybe they've made a bit of money. They're becoming more aware.
Independent. Yeah.
Yes, more independent, more aware. They're more settled. And they seem to catch up in the infidelity game. As it is now, given the people I've come across and the cases I've handled, you can't really say that more men are unfaithful than women.
You can't say that.
You
So
can't say that.
It seems
So
to be
it seems to balance
balancing
out.
out.
Yes. And interestingly, at the time more women are getting independent and more self-aware to venture out, the men are ready to settle.
Wow. Okay, so this is quite interesting. Thank you for that. I think it's time for me to go to this side. I mean, there's some powerful things you've said, and I think one thing is that the seed of infidelity exists in everyone. It's like the seed of betrayal. It's in everyone. You can, if the environment is right, you may find out you betray someone you love so much. Now, ogogo. I'm sorry if I stumble. That's it. Ogogo. Okay, so you're a clinical embryologist. So all of these conversations we're having, does it have anything to do with hormones? I mean, this infidelity issue, are we hormonal beings who should just allow our hormones? The man is testosterone driven. The woman has more hormones, estrogen, progesterone. She's got a lot more to play with. Should we just let our hormones be? Is it a hormonal thing? Is it something we don't have control over?
Thank you, Pastor Sola. Good evening, everybody. I don't think it's hormonal driven, personally, because we all do have the same hormones, just that some people have higher
levels,
while others have lower. You hear people say, I have a very high libido, but it's what you can control, actually. So saying it's hormone means bringing it into, the spiritual. That means you're blaming God for giving you the hormone. So it's, for me personally, I won't say it's hormone, it's indiscipline.
So there's got to be some level of control.
Yes.
To whatever hormonal changes that you may be going through.
Yes, there is, especially for the women. You see women coming to the clinic at a later age, especially postmenopausal patient. They tell you that it's now they want to explore sexually. They want to explore. Some of them will tell you that is it not, because they just feel, I haven't had it well in the past 20 years I've been in this marriage. Can I test the waters? So,
and are these just people who are non-Christians, or it's everywhere? I mean,
it's more surprising to know that it's even more common among Christians.
Okay. All right. Do we continue the conversation? Because there's some things that are being said here already. I mean, these are people, and I think the beautiful thing about our guests is that they're in the field. So they're basically going to be sharing from the experiences that they, are having in relating to people and the experiences that they have been having. So we're not just people who hormones should control, that there's a level of discipline that is required for you to function right in spite of the hormones.
Yes, we shouldn't just allow the hormone to control us, because if you do, that means everybody will be running naked on the street.
Wow. All right. This is really something else. Now, you see, even I am trying to find my own bearing. There is, and let's go back to Pastor Uche. There is the idea of temptations that are real. So even when we look at the subject of infidelity, there is the idea that there are two categories of people. There is someone or a group of people who get into situations of infidelity because they could not resist the temptation. And there are those who habitually, so it's a lifestyle. In your experience, what's the difference between the two, and which situation is easier to remedy or to find a remedy for?
Man is, like she said, we are not controlled by hormones. But the fact remains that two people, given the same scenario, might react differently depending on their level of hormones. A man, for instance, who has a very high sexual drive will spend more time and put in more effort believing God not to get into sexual sin than the man whose libido is lower.
Okay.
So that plays a part. So there are some people that, given the same scenario, they are never going to get into sexual sin, maybe because of their lower libido. But there are some others that is, just like you said, is a lifestyle for them. It's something they grew up saying. It's something they grew up. It's a mindset. It's a philosophy they've imbibed. I actually heard a man say, before he got married, he was in a relationship where he wasn't sexually attracted to the person he was in the relationship with. And this is one thing as believers we need to be careful about. Marriage may be made in heaven, but is lived on earth. You are involved with another human being. I do say to people that if you're not sexually attracted to the person you are contemplating marrying, you should have a rethink.
Can't prayer solve that? Like if you
Pastor,
pray, I mean, like pray. I really don't like you. I don't. There's no attraction. You can pray, Lord, bring the attraction.
So why do we want to invest so much time and effort to pray to get sexually attracted to the person you want to marry when there are so many other people you could be attracted to? So where I'm going with this is that I heard a man who was not attracted to the person he was in a relationship with say that, well, it didn't matter because after he got married, he was going to have girlfriends anyway. So for such a person, he doesn't need any factor to push him into infidelity. He has made up his mind from the outset that he's going to be involved in infidelity. Yes. Such cases are difficult to handle because it's inbuilt, it's a mindset. For the other ones who, for some reason, they fall into that. Maybe expectations are not being met, maybe distance. For some reason, it's easier to handle that and get them out of it than the person who feels. Same goes for women. There are some women who just believe. I've also heard a woman ask that, does marriage mean she's going to sleep with one man for the rest of her life? And she was told yes. And she said, God forbid.
So it's interesting to hear this perspective because, again, it almost seems as if one, outweighs the other, and it's with the men. but it's good to be hearing your own experience again. So let's go back to you. You see, because your field is the field of science. Is there a science to infidelity? Because let's know, is there a science to it? Scientifically, as some
There
people.
is no science to infidelity.
Okay.
Just as it said, it's a personal decision most times. That's why if you notice now, everybody seems to be selling adult toys because people just want to explore. Homosexuality is on the rise. As a matter of fact, I've seen patients who come in and they just want to. My wife just wants to get pregnant and that's all. But they are bisexual, so there's no science to it. It's a personal decision. It's a lifestyle the person has chosen.
Okay, you mentioned a heavy word, bisexual. So that scenario is my wife just wants to get pregnant, and they're saying that's their responsibility. But they, outside the pregnancy, they have their own thing they want to do.
Yes, like you see, you have some men, even women, they get married to a woman and there was love, there was attraction, but along the line, maybe some of them just found themselves having feelings for a fellow man. They just want to explore.
Explore.
Yes, a lot of them want to explore because they have watched the videos, they have seen, but it's more common among women to be bisexual than men. As a matter of fact, we have over 30% of married women who are bisexual than men because they just, it's very difficult for a man to suspect his wife and another woman that comes to the house because he will just feel they are just
friends,
gossiping.
yes. Good.
Yeah. So you can never phantom that, when you leave the house, Mrs. A is with my wife. You can't think that they're in the bedroom doing something very funny. But actually, that's what's happening now.
Okay. I'm wondering whether I should be the one hosting this conversation today. Because I'm being awoken to some amazing realities as well. So I need to comport myself and behave myself in a very... you wanted to say something to that?
Yes. What she said is actually true. And another thing is, I think the society is fueling infidelity. Social
fueling
media,
it,
yes,
social
it's fueling
media.
it. Yes, social media is because when you get on social media, it's amazing. It's like in this society, there was inhibition once upon a time, and we've thrown away all inhibitions. You see a lot of young ladies on social media, and are reeling off the number of sexual encounters they've had. They are talking about how they have dates just to go and have sex. And people are glamorizing having affairs outside of marriage. So there's something in this society that is actually pushing towards infidelity. And as for bisexual, it's surprising that the number of women involved in bisexual relationships, quite a number of them are married women. They're married, but are engaged in such things. And I think it also has to do with the way marriages are handled in Nigeria, the expectations that were not met, and because they feel being with a woman is the lesser of two evils. So they just switch over to going with women.
Wow. So when trust is broken, because the foundation is trust, and I'm sure those of you watching are hearing some things that you probably never thought you hear. And someone did say that, there's an elephant in the church that the church ignores. And I think this is the elephant that we're beginning to see, the elephant in the room that we often ignore. Now, so when trust is broken, what should people do in terms of rebuilding it? Now, again, if trust is broken in a scenario where a man cheats with a woman, cheats his wife with a woman, that's one level of trust. Another level is a man cheats with his wife cheats his wife with a man, that's another. Or a man catches his wife with another woman. Now, so it looks like there are different levels of it. Is there a recovery path which is easier? I don't know if you've had those experiences, but which is easier to recover from?
Yeah, there's a recovery path. The thing about trust is, it's difficult once it's broken to put together, but with enough concerted effort and willingness on the part of both parties.
Both parties.
Yes, there can be some level of repair. Now, when it comes to cheating, when a man cheats with another man, it's bad, right? But a woman will find that easier, in a sense, to handle than when a man cheats with another woman.
Really? Why,
Yes.
why is that?
Because sometimes the men are not going, in this society, we do a lot. We have a lot of cover-up. There's this culture of secrecy, culture of silence. There's a lot of cover-up. And most women who want to keep their homes, there's some women who want to keep their homes at every expense. And they know that the man is not likely to leave his home to go and set up a home with another man. But if he's cheating with a woman, that might mean the end of the marriage because he could leave his home to go set up home with the other woman. When a woman cheats with another woman, most men wink at it. They don't find it as upsetting as when a woman cheats them with another man. Yes. They feel it's upsetting, but to them it's not as big a deal because there's something in a man. It's not just about the fact that you cheated. There's something innate in him that makes him think that, look, you've trespassed. Another man has trespassed where he ought not to trespass. There's
the territorial
thing. So it's more noticeable when he's with another man than when he's with a woman. For some women, cheating with another man is a deal breaker. When the man cheats with a man, is a deal breaker. They are not even willing to negotiate or to think of repairing any sort of thing in that marriage. So it depends on the parties involved and what they hold most sacred.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, I mean, I love the perspective you're bringing because it's totally box shattering. Now, the issue of infertility, is it on the rise? Is it, and if it is, what's causing it? Is it food, Indomie, or whatever it is?
It's actually on the rise. Because in my 10 years so far of being an embryologist, I've seen it get worse. Prior to this time, you would think it's going to drop, but it's every day on the rise. First, we have the environmental factor, especially those in the South.
Oh, really?
Yes. So we from our statistics from 2018, in our AFRH, that's the Fertility Association in Nigeria, we realized that more than 50% of the men in the South seem to be having decline in sperm count, motility, and morphology because of the environment.
The pollution,
gas flaring. It's even more common in Port Harcourt and Bayelsa. Now, especially during the time, I think it was last year or last 2 years when there was a lot of suits in Port Harcourt. Now, most of the IVF clinics in Port Harcourt had issues with patient treatment because a man that walked into your clinic 3 months ago with greater than 100 million sperm cells is coming back 3 months later with 1 million sperm cells. Some of them are, as a matter of fact, some of them even have blocked ducts already. Just as women have blocked fallopian tubes, we have men who have blocked ducts.
Wow.
So those are, and also, because of the third-party IVF, now most young girls are contributing to infertility issues.
What's third-party IVF?
Now, third-party IVF is when you have to involve another person to donate a gamete. Now, we have male and we have the female. We have young men that are coming to donate sperm. We have young girls that are coming to donate their eggs. Now, these young girls that come to donate their eggs are the ones giving us issue. They are the ones that are going to make infertility to remain and increase every other day.
Why is that?
You know, they get to be paid, so most of them now take it as business. So they take it as business. So you see a fine girl, 23, and you're in love and you get married.
And she
1
has
month,
donated everything.
6 months, no baby. She won't tell you she had been to Gariki, Nisa, Dida. She won't tell you that part. You get, but you just see a very fine girl. After 1 year, no child, and reluctantly you go to the hospital and they're like, "Oh, sir, you have to use a donor egg." Your wife won't tell you. The girls won't tell you because when you pay them that huge amount of money, the first thing they're doing is buying her an iPhone.
Like how much? If I want to donate an egg,
No, you don't have eggs.
you can't tell. Okay, well, all right. You can tell. That's your field. But how much do they get paid for these things?
Okay, prior to this time, prior to 2019, the least IVF center was paying 150. The least. You know, some clinics, some of us were paying 250, 300. You get, yes, you know. But when we now realize that these girls are shopping, you know, so what we started doing, it's when you come to the clinic to donate, you bring your passport photograph because they will go to Dida, my name is Mary John. Go to Nisa, my name is Happiness Okolo. Go to Gariki, my name is Amina. You know, they give you different names. So we started having passport photographs. We are very few embryologists in Nigeria, so when a donor comes in, we screen and we just send on the platform, have you seen this picture in your center? Because it affects us too. Now, let's say Mrs. SYZ has paid us $1 million plus to have IVF done, and we already setting, because this guy is 20, we're going to have enough eggs for this couple. And then you get to the theater and boom, you see just one. A girl of 20 years, you're just getting just one egg from her.
Because
she has over-donated. So they have brought themselves unknowingly closer. You know, women are not like men.
They have specific number of eggs for their life.
Yes. So when you're pregnant, now that I'm pregnant, yeah. Now let's assume my child is a girl. At 4 months, all the eggs she needs in this life, it's already there. So from the 5th month, she's already losing them. 6 months, you know, before she gets
6 months in the womb.
Yes, while the baby is still a fetus, the eggs are reducing. So even before you are born, the number of oocytes you have, it's already dropping. Then that's why you see people, different women enter menopause at different stage. I have a patient who was 26 at menopause. Yes, she got married as a virgin. So when we realized, and it was shocking, so we asked her to call her mom. She did call her mom. You have a younger sister. She called her younger sister. The younger sister was a university student, 22. Hormone result was reading over like a woman of 40. So we found out it was genetic.
Wow.
You get?
Goodness.
So it's a lot that needs to be handled fast. So that's why most fertility clinics are not, we are keeping pictures now, passport photograph of donors. So when you come around, we'll tell you, okay, don't worry, we'll give you a call. That is goodbye.
Yeah, so you do your own background checks.
Yes, because my brother can get married to any of those donors, and tomorrow he will call me, big sis, Alpha, how much is IVF?
Again, I mean, if they're going from place to place donating eggs, you never can tell. 20, 30 years down the line, you may find 4 children looking alike, belonging to different parents.
Yeah, it's 20 years is far. There's this man in the US that he was a social sperm donor. Like in Nigeria, when you donate sperm, when you come to this hospital to donate sperm, after we have 3 live births, you can't donate sperm anymore. So, but now these boys, they need money because for an ejaculate, you are paid.
How much for, I mean, I'm just
No,
curious.
for an ejaculate, you're paid. Some clinics pay 30, some pay 50, but it's between 30 to 50.
Okay, so the eggs are more expensive than the sperm.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, because sperm,
It's everywhere.
Spermatogenesis is every 90 days.
Okay.
Use or not use, it's going to be wasted.
Okay.
You know, so the man actually had donated in the US, and he had actually in outside Nigeria, people are more daring. Like people tell their children, "Oh, you actually a sperm donor," all this stuff. But in Nigeria, it's very difficult for me to tell my child that.
Yeah.
So
he had gone round and...
Yes. So the children, they all came together. Some were even 17, 18. And he already has over 20-something live births. So they all met themselves, but they all belong to different parents from different states in the U.S. You get so.
Well, if you're just joining us, welcome to this troubling conversation, but yet very illuminating, and I'm sure that we're learning something from this. Again, it just shows that we live in a world where we need to be extremely cautious, how we connect, how we engage, how we relate, who you marry, background checks. You need to be able to examine everyone that you plan to get married to. This is a good point for us to take a break while you digest all that you have heard. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Don't switch off your TVs, or don't change your focus on your phones, or switch the dial. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Stay glued to your TV.
It's important to note that mental health is a lot more than just rational thinking. Because when you actually think about what rational thinking is, it's like math. It's saying, if this, then this. But because we have so many other situations, we have family, friends, emotions that play in on our decisions, it's almost irrational and impossible to think that mental health is just rational thinking. Because sometimes people may act in ways that are irrational to us, but are rational to them given their circumstances.
The conversation keeps you in touch with the realities of life, links you with the greatest minds around the world, and leaves you better off than when you joined it. Don't miss it for anything. Join the conversation bi-monthly on the social media channels showing on your screen.
There's so many conversations when it has to do with mental health. And unfortunately, most of the conversations happen on Twitter and Instagram and online platforms. And I truly do not believe those are the platforms to have this kind of conversations. First of all, I believe the home is the first place to have this kind of conversations. So I think a lot of conversations around mental health are had in the wrong platforms. We can't overemphasize the need to have more professionals in that field. I mean, if you look on the news and you see the amount of doctors leaving the country, it's really sad. And yet again, we're talking about mental health. I mean, how many psychologists do we have in the country? A few days ago, I was listening, and I think we have just about 75,000 doctors to 200 million people. How many of those are psychologists? Wow. So we really need to have those kind of conversations on platforms like this and with health professionals.
The conversation keeps you in touch with the realities of life, links you with the greatest minds around the world, and leaves you better off than when you joined it. Don't miss it for anything. Join the conversation bi-monthly on the social media channels showing on your screen. Welcome back from the break. I hope you were able to get a cold drink if you were at home. And for those of you here, well, God help you to cool you down. At least I think the air conditioning is cooling to some degree. Great to have, to be back again with our guests here, Uche and Ogogo. Now, we left off at a point, and honestly, the concern has been about the girls. Do these girls know they're depleting their eggs? I mean, because one would think that if they know, they won't put themselves in such precarious situations. Do they know?
Yes, they do. As a matter of fact, when they come into the clinic, these girls actually discuss among themselves. So they just give you a call. Hello, ma. Somebody gave me your number. And boom, come to the clinic. They already know the procedures. So they come in. The counselor explains to them, detailed explanation. Send them to the nurses. They explain. As a matter of fact, the nurses take their time. Take their time to explain. Have you donated before? No. It's always no. Have you donated before? No, because they already know what you want to ask.
So they're prepared
They
for
are
it.
prepared. So, no. You know that when you do this too much, you are going to end up like the people you're coming to help. Matron, I know this is my first time. I want to pay school fees. My parents are in the village, which is not true. Now you see this. I've seen when I nearly moved to Abuja, because I was working in Benin then, and I had a donor. I moved into Abuja May, and I had a donor that came to my clinic in February. So I know her very well. I know her very well because she gave us a bit of issue. I just walked into, I went to the nurses department, and I saw her leaving. She was like, Auntie Oji. I said, what are you doing here? From Benin.
Wow.
Yes. What are you doing here? Nothing. I went upstairs, asked the nurse, I saw one girl. Oh, she's the donor on Steam. She's the donor on Steam. Say yes. She said she has never donated before. I told them, I gave them her name. I'm like, this is her name. Okay, take this number, call the nurse in this
And
clinic.
so she gave a different name this
Yes.
time.
So now these girls, they know what they are doing because you have explained to them. Now, when you go to the theater and you go for the OCR and they are out and you tell them you didn't do well, they'll start crying, what will I do? It's already too late to ask me, what will you do? Because I have asked you before. They are aware, they are giving books to read.
But you run a clinic where you're educating the girls. It's possible that other clinics don't even bother. They do. They're just interested in the eggs.
Well, that's also there. But 80% of IVF clinics, or as a matter of fact, 90% that I know of, they have this consent form. That the consent form it's not just stating, I want to voluntarily. No, it tells you this is what you're going to go through. This is it. You're going to take this injection. You're going to go through this. This is the problem. This is what you are likely to face in the future. This is what is going to happen if you overdo this.
And then, so you sign and give consent.
I don't even think they read that. They are just after the money because, my friend Jane has iPhone 13, so
I need
let me
to
donate
have iPhone 13
iPhone 15
as well.
safe.
Back to you, Pastor Uche. So in your years of counseling, have you faced scenarios that are directly connected with this? So where there's the woman's status or the man's status reproductively is hidden prior to marriage, and then they get married and suddenly realize that she doesn't have the right eggs because she's had a hysterectomy, she's got a challenge, the man has a low sperm count, he hid it in his relationship, and now they're married and these issues are there. Have you had to deal with this scenario before?
Yes. It's rather unfortunate that a lot of things don't come out during courtship or dating. There's a lot of information that is hidden. That's why when we talk to singles, we tell them that this time of courtship, or let's use dating now as it's called, is not the period to go to silver bed eat ice cream, and post selfies. Oh, he loves me.
And
That's just
popcorn.
not what it's for. It's the period to find out a lot of things. Communicate, communicate, communicate.
I'll put you on pause there for emphasis. So, courtship is not about the movies, ice cream, shawarma,
Not at all. It's
suya,
not.
balangu, and all of those things. It's a time to communicate.
Yes.
Please go on.
Yes,
Because it's important to stress that.
It's a time to communicate. It's a time to know everything you can possibly know about your intended. You know, before you marry, disclose everything. After marriage, you may not disclose everything. It depends on what the situation is. But before marriage, you need to disclose everything. Unfortunately, people don't disclose everything. People don't disclose a lot of things. And when it comes to fertility issues, people do a lot of hiding. The ladies know that there are issues. And there's something common to us believers. It's not my portion. Right? My case is different. If everybody's case is different, then nobody's case is different. My case is different. So whose case is not different? Whose person's portion is it? So we tend to bury our heads in the sand as believers. You know, faith is not a denial of circumstances.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we try to deny the circumstances, and then we don't want to. It's like, if I talk about it, it means I'm not in faith. No, you need to let him know. You need to let people make informed decisions. And then some men know. They know, for instance, that they are not interested, just like she said, they're not interested in having sexual relations with women. They know. Or they are incapable of having sexual relations with women, or they are incapable of impregnating a woman. Somebody met me, I had a case where the man, after years of marriage, finally opened up to his wife, told her that, well, he's homosexual, he had decided to pursue that lifestyle, and she's at liberty to do whatever she wanted. And they are believers. They were not unbelievers. So people do know, and they don't reveal. And because
And the marriage is still together? Or?
well, they didn't follow up with me, so I don't know if the marriage is still together. We don't ask enough questions, and then we don't know the right questions to ask when we are going out with somebody. We don't know the right questions to ask. Then sometimes we are afraid, particularly women. We don't want to seem pushy. We want to be virtuous. We want to be feminine. So we don't want to ask the pertinent questions. And the church, we need to come to a place where we need to teach our young ones the right questions to ask when you are dating.
So we don't ask. You said we don't ask enough questions.
And the right
we don't
questions.
ask the right questions.
Yes.
Okay, so sample 1, 2 right questions. If you're dating, what question do you ask?
Okay, you know, in the dating, right? You are not. There was some time ago. I don't know if we saw it on social media, where there was this story of a young man who went out with a girl and asked her where she saw herself in 5 years' time or something like that. And there was so much uproar about that, and some people were angry. Why should you ask such a question? Now, you don't go out with somebody on a first date, and then you put the person on an interview panel and begin to ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? But if you will listen enough, if you will spend enough time together, if your eyes will be open in the course of conversation, people usually reveal themselves.
Yeah, where they're headed.
Yeah. So, but we are so much in love. We're all about the love, and we want to get married.
So we just kind of like choose to be blind.
Choose to be blind. So some of the questions, just get the person talking. Talk about everything. Get them talking about everyday lifestyle. Create circumstances where you can have conversations. Ask them, give them hypothetical.
Can you ask questions about their family background?
Yes. What have you been up to? What are you planning?
Do they come from an abusive home? Polygamous home?
Nobody comes from an abusive home. When you ask that question, I've not seen anybody who usually would admit that, yes, I came from an abusive home. Everybody's home was, oh, my dad was very loving, my mom. But in the course of conversation,
Those
you
things
will
come
hear
up.
some things that, oh, my father was angry, or my father is a strict disciplinarian, or nobody dares watch television when my father is at home. Some of those things are telltale signs of the kind
signs.
of background you came from.
Okay, so can you also ask a question as the marriage deepens? Like, can a lady ask a question like, okay, with due respect, when you wake up in the morning, does your something stand or it doesn't stand? It's
Yeah, it's very, very important. I was talking to a group of young people recently, and I said to them that if you are going out with somebody, and in all the months or years you've dated, somebody had never had to use newspaper to do like this, to cover something that is standing, you need to think twice.
because if you get married, you would need resurrection power.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because if you are with a man who is attracted to you, there definitely will be a day or two where something will be standing. We are not saying make use of the something that is standing, but something should stand. Yes.
Is there something you want to add to this? Because, or do I just go on with you?
No, there was the part she said that when people are dating, they don't review everything, which is very true. Because in the course of my work, I have seen a lot of people coming. Infertility is both male, female, unexplained. Now, some people know. We have, I have seen a patient that she was like, she was crying. In fact, if she had blood to cry, she would have. She was like, my husband is like this. That was what she kept doing. Why? She had never seen the man naked in the light before. They've been married for 8 years, and
in those 8 years, she never saw the man.
No, the man is always, when it's time for let's meet, he's switched off the light. There is no sex in the afternoon in his house. There is no light on, not even blue light. Everywhere has to be pitch black. You get, and all this while, unknown to her, the man had a vibrator. So she was enjoying the sexual pleasure, thinking it was the husband's organ. Until, when you come to the clinic, one of the investigations we do is semen analysis. So we give you a production room. So you can't come to the hospital to SFA and your wife is there and we say, madam, sit in the reception while your husband going. It's, some women feel, is there a girl inside? So usually we say, go in with your husband. Unfortunately for them, our production room has an inbuilt red bulb that, just lighting the place a little. So that was the first time she was actually seeing the man's organ. And she ran out, shout. She was screaming.
At all these years?
All these years. And now she has been in the marriage for 8 years. She has been insulted by in-laws. Our brother has impregnated. Everybody's always saying their brother has impregnated a girl when he was in school. Even when the guy has never, it's always the woman's fault. So people don't disclose. They know. Some women know that they don't have uterus at all. Some already know they don't have. Some of them, they've done a lot. So they come to meet you. I don't want my husband to know. I don't want my wife to know.
Is that, so in that scenario, is there a marriage? Because if it's built on falsehood and deception, and one party says, I'm not ready for this, and I want to walk away, what would you say?
Yeah, marriage is established on trust. So in a situation where two people get married and everything was built on falsehood, really you can't hold the party who wants to walk away responsible. It's left to that party if he wants to or she wants to continue. And then sometimes it depends at what point was this deception discovered. And how was it discovered? If it was discovered early enough, you may be able to remedy it. But if you've been in a situation for like
10 years.
10 years, right? And everything has been based on falsehood. And it wasn't even like the person had felt remorseful someday and opened up to you and said, this is what I did, or this is what I should have done. But you found the person out in circumstances that were not of his making. So the person at no point was remorseful. Because if that circumstance had not come into play, you would never have found out. So if one party wants to, it's going to take a lot to keep that marriage together. It's going to take a lot because the other party might just decide that, you know what? I don't know what else you are capable of. I don't even know if you are a man or you are a woman. I don't know. At this point, I don't know who I'm dealing with. Everything about you might just be false, including where you work, where you say you're from. Everything might be false. Where do I begin to investigate to know the real person that I'm married to? So it's going to take a lot to keep that marriage together. And you will not be able to hold the party who has been so wronged.
And who decides to walk away
and say you must stay. Because even if the person stays, really the marriage is destroyed. You've destroyed the very foundation upon which the marriage was built.
But the Bible says God hates divorce.
Yes. And God hates lies.
Okay, thank you. Now, very, very, very pertinent issue has to do with the recent spate and of DNA testing, which I think has come to become a very recurrent decimal in our social interactions and in society today. There was a celebrated case recently of a very popular comedian who, I don't know what version of the story, because there are lots of stories, but typically if you're planning to leave the country today and you say you have 3 children, they'd want DNA tests done so that you're not taking someone who's not your child, out of the country. It could also be, child trafficking and all of those things. And he found out that his first child was not his. In lots of, as our communities, there's a saying, and it comes in every language, that it is only the mother that knows who is the father of the child. So here we are in a new reality where DNA tests are being performed. I think to start with, how authentic is DNA testing?
The test is...
And how accurate is it?
It's very, very accurate and authentic. As a matter of fact, when you walk into the lab to run a paternity test or a maternity test, you're sure of coming out with a 99.9% result that it's authentic. It's not falsified. For now, there is no falsification yet. This is Nigeria. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
So because this DNA tests, they are done by machines, but the results are imputed and delivered by human beings.
So they can change?
For now, they have not started.
So from your own experience, what are the statistics like, especially with paternity fraud? That's the way it's the nomenclature. Is it on the rise? Is it still growing? What are the stats like?
Well, recently I've spoken with a few pathologists. I have a friend in one of the DNA testing lab in the south, and we got talking because theirs is I think they are the only ones that do DNA testing in the south. And I asked, and he was like, "Oh, gee, this thing is getting worse." Now, most men believe that the first child, 70% of the men coming in for DNA testing, they are coming in out of distrust. You know, you have a child and suddenly you feel, why is my child's head looking like my wife's boss's head? You know? And now the results, it's alarming that it's on the rise, actually. The truth be told, women are not as faithful as we think they are.
Women are not as faithful
as we think they are. You know, everybody feels men are more polygamous in nature. But that's not true. It's even worse with women. It's just because we don't put out the lifestyle. We don't, you know, men like to show off and, you know, they discuss with their friends. So you're discussing with a guy, that girl. But, you know, women, we are very secretive. So if you ask a girl in secret and you give her your word and like, I'm never going to tell anybody, give me your body count. Truth be told, some women will give you body count of up to 50.
Body count of people, corpses, people that died in a crime scene or what?
No, like when you hear young girls say body count, it means how many sexual partners they have had. And
they would mention 50.
Funny enough, they know the guys. I don't think any girl, except she's into the business.
Prostitution.
If it's her daily job. But a girl that works, let's say she works in a bank, she has the record. She knows every guy she has bedded. We keep record. We know. You get? So now, because she loves this guy, and funny enough, most of the women that get pregnant before marriage, or you know, some of them, most of them might not even know that this pregnancy is for this guy. I've seen, because maybe they met with, some women can sleep with 4 guys in a space of 2 days, or even in a day. So she doesn't even know
who the father is.
So she just picks the one she loves most and the one that can take care of her needs.
And tells him, I'm pregnant for you.
And you know, usually that guy is always the one that loves her. So he's happy to, there's a baby on the way. Everybody wants a baby. You know,
and then so he accepts the baby until he realizes that the head is...
Okay, no, the thing is this. Now, this paternity testing, it's in the middle of the relationship, in the middle of the marriage, distrust starts coming in. Trust issues start coming in. Now, most women, some women are not able anymore to stick to having intercourse with just one person in the marriage after some time. They find it very boring, and maybe the guy happened to have friends who have mistakenly seen the wife with somebody else, and out of, you know, men, out of trust, friendship, or those, I saw your wife with this, and he starts looking at the child funny. And because normally I don't think any man would just wake up today and say, this is my first son. Something is wrong, you know, until the seed is sown.
That distrust.
Yes, that seed of distrust is sown. You know, you are told, and then you start watching your wife. You start watching. Then you go for paternity test, and boom. Sorry, sir. 0.000% gene DNA material was found. So it's obviously not your child. So what do? You can't run the child under the bus.
So you see, here we have a dilemma. As I've said this, you know, significantly in different, you know, fora. And I was saying this to you when we were having a conversation before this, you know, show started, that I have 3 children, and I've come to love them for over 20 years. And to be honest with you, I mean, there's no iota of doubt that they're mine. I trust my wife. But even if I didn't, I don't want to know. That's my own position, because knowing will change the love that I have for them. And I don't want that to change. So I'd rather journey for the next 25 years, if you understand what I'm saying, than to want to know, because that knowledge not only changes the relationship between the man and the woman, but also the future of that child becomes traumatized and becomes, it's jeopardized. So, I mean, she's speaking. We all know this is happening. In your own experience, have you ever had to deal with a paternity case? And then, let's hear from you, and let's see how it was handled. If no, then we'll go to the next point.
No, I've not had to cancel anybody on paternity case. And I think two things are basically responsible. One, there's still, even though it's changing now, with the advent of social media, it's like we're going from one extreme to the other extreme. First, it was keep everything hidden. Now it's like open up everything. Let the whole world know. So, but there's still there's still some things that we do cover up. So there's still that cover up and that culture of silence. And then there's still this thing of don't let a third party into your marital issue. So until it becomes really bad, people don't want to come for counseling because they believe that let's not go for counseling. It's admitting that there's something wrong. It's admitting that we're not in faith. So no, I haven't had to handle a case of paternity fraud.
Have you personally have to handle one?
No, I haven't. I haven't handled one from a lab result done in Nigeria, but I've handled, not personally, just an advice. This is not my child, and that's why I'm here.
So what should a couple do in that scenario? And I'm talking about the child now. What should happen to that child?
Well, I think whatever is going to happen to that child, it's also pertinent to discuss what should happen to the marriage. Because what happens to the marriage, to a large extent, will determine what will happen to the child.
To the child.
Yes. If the marriage is redeemable or salvageable, we can better take care of the child because there's still a family.
Can a marriage like that be salvageable?
Yes. There is really no marriage that cannot be salvaged. And it depends on some factors. It depends, first of all, at what stage was this deception found out. If it's in the early years of marriage, 1, 2, 3 years, and the man just gets to find out this was what happened, he now is faced with a choice. He could decide to go ahead. This is his choice, to raise this child. If it's in 16 years, 20 years, 18 years after the marriage, it's a bit more difficult because you've kept this man with another person's child for 16 years. He's lived in deception for 20 years. How he was found out matters. Did you tell him or did he find out? Then it depends on how strong was the relationship prior to finding out. What are they both willing to do? Yes, there's no marriage that cannot be salvaged, but there will be a lot of work, tears, prayers, time before that marriage can be salvaged, if it can be salvaged. And another thing is we shouldn't force the man. There's this thing about, you must forgive. Forgiveness is mandatory. Reconciliation is not mandatory. You can forgive without reconciling.
Forgiveness is mandatory.
Yes, for a believer. Reconciliation is optional. Reconciliation is based on so many factors. Forgiveness is, the Bible says you should forgive. And when Jesus told us to forgive 7 times 70, there was no stipulation as to what should be forgiven or what should not be forgiven. If you can forgive murder, you can forgive paternity fraud. So you can forgive, but should that marriage continue is dependent on the woman, the man, the support they get, the kind of people they are, their background, how strong their relationship has been, how much work
and possibly the circumstances that caused that to happen.
Yes.
Because there was a scenario, and I know it's played out in different cases where, true story, this couple were trusting God for a child, and they didn't have any. And one day the woman's old ex-boyfriend, comes into town. She goes to visit. One thing leads to another. They have sexual intercourse. She's sad. Her heart is broken. She's a believer. She asks God for forgiveness, and she moves on. A month thereafter, she misses her period. She's still sexually active with her husband. She gets pregnant. They've been praying and trusting God. She believed God had forgiven her. This pregnancy was from her husband. The child was born. Baby dedication took place. Then the child fell ill, and they didn't know what was going on. Eventually, they went to do a blood test and found out that the child was SS. The man, AA, the wife, AS. So how did SS come into being? She herself, at this point, had forgotten what happened, and suddenly it hit her that singular act is what produced this child. Eventually, like David's story, the child died. But the man had to move on to forgive. So if a scenario like that presented itself where this woman is not sexually promiscuous, but something happened and she yielded to temptation, I would want to assume that it's easier to remedy such a situation.
Definitely, it's easier to remedy such a situation because one thing we must bear in mind is that anybody could be in any kind of situation at any time. We mustn't be on our high horses and think, oh, this could never happen to me. Sometimes until you are faced with certain situations, you don't know how you are going to act. There's this saying that the day of planning is different from the day of battle.
That's right.
So until you get there, you don't know how you are going to act. So it could have been the man. It could have been the man that was caught in the sexual sin. Isn't the woman expected to forgive him? She would be asked to forgive him. So the man can forgive. But when it's a question of you deliberately, you knew this pregnancy wasn't from your husband, and you foisted it on him for years. You allowed him to develop a relationship with the child. You allowed him to spend his time, energy, and money on this child. It's forgivable because every sin is forgivable. There is no sin that the blood of Jesus is no match for. The blood of Jesus can match every sin. If Jesus can forgive it, we can forgive it. But like I said earlier, forgiveness is one thing. Reconciliation is another thing. Yes. Depending on the man, and some women, it's going to take, when such a breach happens, there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of pain. And another thing again is, has it gone public? If it hasn't gone public, it will be easier for the man to handle it. But if it has gone public, it's likely to be more difficult for him to ever handle that. You will be surprised the number of men. Men say that they don't forgive infidelity. They can't handle another person's child. But really, you'll be surprised the number of men who have forgiven infidelity and it's kept between them. They do forgive infidelity. It depends on how it's handled. With enough support and enough remorse from the woman, because the man is going to lash out. The man is going to act out. The man might just begin to sleep around. He's going to do a lot of things. How much work is she willing to put in to making that relationship work again?
Well, thank you. Thank you. We're going on another short break, and after this break, we're going to be taking questions, both from our stream and from the audience. So see you in a bit.
So I don't think talking to my friends would help me. But then when it comes to my family, it's difficult to communicate with parents the older generation. It's difficult to communicate with parents about how we feel. Imagine me telling my mom, okay, she comes to my room in the morning and I'm still on the bed and she's like, why are you not sweeping? Why are you not cleaning the house or something? And I'm like, I don't feel like doing anything today. I just want to be alone. What do you think? What do you think she's going to say? Probably use this lazy child. That's Nigerian mothers.
You have a spiritual problem. You need prayers.
Exactly. She would probably say, maybe, what did you dream about last night? Did you sleep? You know, things like that, because she is seeing it from a different area, not from the mental health issue, part. She's saying it as, no, something is wrong here, but first, she might even ask me, are you sick? Do you have headache? Because they are used to this physical health and not the mental health. They are used to being concerned about how we feel. Okay, do you have a headache? Is your stomach aching you? But they're not really concerned because they don't really have knowledge in that area. So they're not really concerned about our mental health. They're not really concerned about how we feel. Why is this child no longer coming to sit here in the sitting room with us? Why is this child going to the room? Why is this child always isolated? Why is this child no longer talking?
The conversation keeps you in touch with the realities of life, links you with the greatest minds around the world, and leaves you better off than when you joined it. Don't miss it for anything. Join the conversation bi-monthly on the social media channels showing on your screen.
It's important to note that mental health is a lot more than just rational thinking. Because when you actually think about what rational thinking is, it's like math. It's saying, if this, then this. But because we have so many other situations, we have family, friends, emotions that play in on our decisions, it's almost irrational and impossible to think that mental health is just rational thinking. Because sometimes people may act in ways that are irrational to us, but are rational to them given their circumstances.
The conversation keeps you in touch with the realities of life, links you with the greatest minds around the world, and leaves you better off than when you joined it. Don't miss it for anything. Join the conversation bi-monthly on the social media channels showing on your screen. Welcome back to this final phase of tonight's conversation, when we'll be taking questions from our audience, both from the live stream and those who are in the studio this evening. Now, there's a question from Godwin Joseph, and the question goes, what if a partner is extravagant and shows no prudence with finances? Doesn't it justify non-transparency? The person, I think, is saying if a person's spending money and not, holding back, doesn't it justify non-transparency?
No. There is actually nothing that justifies non-transparency in a marriage relationship. If you have a partner, two people can never be totally the same. So if you have a partner who is not prudent with finances, you need to sit down with that partner and have a conversation. You need to talk. You need to communicate. One thing I found out in this part of the world, we shy away from difficult conversations. We need to talk and talk plain. We need to have the difficult conversations, set it out on the table, and let the person realize that if this doesn't change, we need to take certain steps. There are some boundaries we're going to put in place to help even you in managing your own finances and our finances. And because of your lack of prudence, we are going to take these steps. Not that I'm not going to be transparent. Maybe you will not have access to this amount of money because you are not prudent. But talk it out. Have a conversation. By the time you begin to hide funds, you are breeding distrust. And you didn't have that conversation. You are creating an atmosphere that will breed distrust, and where it will end will be greater than where it started. It will end somewhere more than just handling finances. So you need to be transparent.
Thank you. Difficult conversations that need to be had just simply needs to be had. So do we have a question from the audience or in the studio? All right, there's a question. Just tell us your name and just ask the question.
Okay, my name is Mercy. Good evening, everyone. I'm enjoying every bit of this conversation, but here I have a question. So, what's the evidence of forgiveness if you can't reconcile with the offender? What's the evidence?
What's the evidence of forgiveness if you can't reconcile with the offender?
Then, okay, another question. So, is it that it's not possible for doctors to know how many eggs a woman have left in her?
Okay, so two questions. Evidence of forgiveness.
So let's
How many eggs?
let's define forgiveness and let's define reconciliation. Forgiveness means that I am no longer holding you responsible and I'm not going to punish you anymore for these actions that you have taken that have hurt me. Reconciliation means that I am putting my relationship with you back on the same status, regardless of whether you've shown remorse or not. So let me create a scenario for you. You bring someone into your home. Unknowing to you, he's a rapist. He rapes your little daughter. Because you are a believer, you forgive him. You send him out of your house. He hasn't gone through any therapy. He hasn't done any work on himself to show that he has left this behavior behind. And even if he says, I'm a changed man, there needs to be evidence of change. The Bible says that we should show fruits of repentance. What has he shown to show that he has changed? It will be foolhardy of you to say, I've forgiven him, and to show that I've forgiven him, come back into my home and rape my other daughters. That's what you're saying.
Thank you. I think that's vivid enough. Very, very, very clear. Okay, so is there a way of knowing how many eggs are left? And maybe this question is to probably help the men, so that is there like a device? And when you're dating, you can scan, say 20 eggs remaining.
Okay, the thing is, ovarian reserve scans are done, actually.
Ovarian reserves scans.
Yes,
They are done.
Yes, it's a transvaginal scan that is done to check ovarian reserve. It's called ovarian reserve. So now this patient come in, you do hormonal tests also. Hormones actually show you, okay, how much hormones this woman have, how much FSH, if her FSH is so high.
What
so
is
low.
FSH?
It's follicle stimulating hormones. So, but now when you do a scan on a patient, what you're seeing are follicles, not eggs. Now the follicles house the eggs. You see a lot of follicles and they look beautiful. Until you go to the theater to puncture each of the follicles, you won't know if this follicle has an egg in it. So the TVS shows you that, oh, this lady has very good AFC, right, greater than 27, left PCO. Then the next thing, you go to the theater, puncture 20 follicles, you get only 8 eggs. So scans sometimes for younger ladies don't show you, not sometimes, all the time, they don't show you the number of eggs. They just show you the number of follicles you have there.
And an egg is released how frequently?
Every 14, like every 28 days. Some women have 28-day cycles, some women have 30-day cycle. So my cycle might be different from the other person's cycle. So when you start your period today, you start counting from today. From today, you start your period. Let's assume you ovulated on the left-hand side last month. So you start your period 14 days after that ovulation. From the first day, the other ovaries start recruiting eggs that will either be fertilized or be menstruated. So if you're not married, that means we should be expecting to have another period in the next 28 or 30 days. But if you're married, we pray that there's pregnancy occurring. Okay. So, but the thing now is, it's not every month that a woman gets pregnant. The reason being that it's not every time you ovulate mature eggs.
I mean, it's for me the depth of knowledge, and you know, I'm just looking at how amazing God is. You know, it's just so precise, so accurate, and I think every human being has a responsibility to be stewards of what God has given you. You know, women should be good stewards of their eggs, and men should be good stewards of their sperm as well, and not just throw it everywhere. It's that consideration for me, you know, today that's making this such a wonderful conversation. Really, really amazing conversation. Any other question from our audience? Okay, we've got another question. Just tell us your name and quickly.
Good evening. My name is Uche. Thank you for all you have said. So I have this question. Is an age-old question. Everybody actually knows it, but I need you to help us. So the story that was told us by our scientists, the lady didn't know the man's organ was like this. So there is the popular thing of the world, you know, you need to test it before you marry. So what will you tell? Most young people now will hear this and say, you see. So what will you tell people? What will you tell young people for them not to get into that kind of, because at least there must be a way to know. And I know you said something, if within maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months, the person does not cover, maybe hide an erection or something. Sometimes some people are in certain relationships that maybe because of how their church is or their religious upbringing, they are never alone together, you know, they don't stay, you know, in compromising, you know, and all that. So it's actually possible 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you may really not see an erection, not that the person does not have it. So I need just help for the sake of the younger people.
Okay, so the question now is, how do we know? Well, first of all, the Bible is very clear. We are not to test. So the question of, or the issue of testing is out of the question. We are not to test. Now, a lot of things happen in marriage. Let's even say you tested, right? And everything was working. I had these neighbors where I was living previously, and the man said the wife must be pregnant before they get married. And she did get pregnant, and they got married. And like 7 months into the pregnancy, she lost the baby. She got pregnant quite all right. And it took like another 7 years for her to get pregnant again. So supposing you do some testing and everything was okay, and inside, somewhere along the line in the married relationship, something goes wrong, things happen, and then it's no longer functioning the way it ought to function. What then? What should we do? Now, sex is very vital to marriage. As a matter of fact, if you do get married and sex does not occur, that is grounds for annulment, not divorce. Because what makes it a marriage is that you consummated the marriage by having sex. So I'm not belittling sex in any way. But at the same time, marriage is greater than sex. So everything about marriage is not about sex. And from what I've heard, I don't know, maybe she can clarify. And from research, from talking to people, it's not actually the size of the organ that matters. It is the ability to use what you have. Because there are different ways to satisfy a woman sexually. And you don't have to have the largest of organs to be able to satisfy a woman. Some people have the organs, they don't know how to use it.
What a wicked world.
That's why he's looking at me. So
Because I'm listening to you. I mean, you're speaking truth, and it's good that we can laugh over these things, really, because it is so illuminating, and I think that's helpful. You did say something which I think it's also very significant, that it can work at the beginning, and somewhere 8 years down the line, for whatever reason, the man just can't seem to function. And I believe that's the reason why you did establish that marriage is greater than sex. As important as sex is, things happen along the way. Sometimes that has no... I know of a person very close who lost his mother, and his libido went from 100 to 0. And for the next 10 years, could not even have sex with his wife. So he went through a traumatic... so these things happen. In that scenario, that's not the end of the marriage. There's got... Even though it can be frustrating, whether the person sought for medical help or not, I really don't think the person did. But these are realities. And so there must be more bringing us together than just sex. And the world today just puts a huge emphasis on sex. The world is sex-driven. Everything is about sex, sex, sex. And yet the marital aspect is so de-emphasized. And so I think this is important for people to understand. And I just felt to throw that in.
She has actually said everything, and what she said was actually right, because in the middle of the marriage, anything can happen. You might have a husband or a wife. Let's even use the men. Let's assume the man works with Ajip and he has been in Abuja all this while, and they feel it's time to send you to the field. They send you to Elele. They send you to Omok. They send you to Yenogwa. And you are there for 6 straight months. You are in the heat. You are exposed to everything, all the chemicals. You are exposed to soot. You are exposed to everything. And now your wife has just 1 child. And, when you were getting married, before marriage, everybody said, maybe if we'll have 4 kids, we'll have 3, we'll have 2. And with all this happening, the next thing, your sperm count drops from 20 million to 1 million. It takes the grace of God to achieve pregnancy with 1 million sperm cells.
That's the question I wanted to ask, because 1 million is a lot.
1 million is nothing.
It's nothing.
Yes.
1 million.
It's nothing.
It's like if you give me 1 million now, you say it's nothing.
That is money. Pastor, the thing is this. The WHO standard prior to this time, in the WHO manual that was reviewed in 2010, 20 million was the normal count for sperm cells. Normal. So
20 million per what now? Is
20 million sperm cell per ejaculate. Now, if you have anything less than 20 million, it's regarded as low sperm count. But later it was reviewed again in 2015 because of environmental factors, Sola, whatever, a lot of things. So they dropped it to 15 million. Why? Because when a man ejaculates 20 million sperm cells, from the vagina to the tubes, the vaginal fluid actually kills over 10 million of it before it moves up. So it takes the grace of God to achieve. So when you come to the hospital and the man has 1 million sperm count, we just know that, okay, we are not even doing a conventional IVF. We are doing an ICSI. So you have to pick that 1 sperm and force it into the egg.
Even with 1 million, you can't do it conventional.
That's why I say 1 million is, I don't know. Yes, you are broke. Thank you. Yeah, because it's when you see an embryologist, most embryologists, what what really stresses us out most is when the nurse comes to tell you that this man, the result from the lab just shows his sperm count is 0 to 1 or just 1. 0 to 1 means less than 1 million, that's between 100,000. Yeah. And or say, 1 million. 1 million is even manageable. It's manageable, you get. So you just, but achieving pregnancy with 1 million sperm cell at home, because the moment you ejaculate, the vaginal fluid, it just kills, and it's very difficult for XY sperm cells to survive.
XY.
So the XS survive better than the XY, because it has shown that the XS sperm cells are more rugged than the XY. So
And the XX is the one that produces the female?
yes,
They
so
are more rugged.
So that's why when you ejaculate 20 million, it just takes only one to achieve from the vagina straight before it keeps moving to every stage. When it gets to the uterus, it also gets trapped before it moves to go meet the oocyte. So it's a lot.
So men generally are an endangered species.
My husband will say that he has been carrying children all his life and he's not complaining. When you give a woman one child, she will hold her waist from. But it's not that. It's the same thing applies to the women also. Of recent, we all know that cancer has come to stay. It has become rampant. Okay, so you can just be married today and something will happen. You see a lot of women coming down with cancer of the uterus, cancer of the disc, follicular cysts, ovarian cysts.
Is that related to our diet? Is that one of the things that's triggering it?
Truth be told, I don't really know. It's just that these cells just grow. Cancer is just a cell that just grow. Now, people have said diet contributes to it. But personally, I haven't done any much reading on that, so I wouldn't really know.
Thank you for these contributions this night. How liberating is it? Well, here we have come to, and we'll have to cap this conversation tonight. I have just, I sometimes pride myself in reading and knowledge, but today I have learned things I never knew. And I must thank you both for, helping us. Can we appreciate our guests today for such a wonderful conversation? In closing, I just feel it's important for our generation to trust God for everything, to trust God to find the right partner, to trust God to be healthy, to trust God to have the right eggs that would survive through time, to trust God for 10 million sperms. 20 million. It was dropped to 15 per ejaculate. It should be part of your prayer list if you are single. It may sound humorous, but most people are trusting God for a house, trusting God for a car, and they don't know they need to trust God to be healthy. Trust God that you can have a child when you get married, and trust God to be married to a spouse who's faithful and one, who has integrity, one who loves God. And so the fundamental, undergirding principle for trust in relationship is to start with trusting God. And that doesn't mean that all of these things are not important. But if we trust God that He would not send to us the wrong person, we trust God that that we will not marry the devil's child, so that the devil won't be your father-in-law. These things are very important. That in our generation, more than ever before, we must put our faith in God. We also must know and stay with biblical principles. You know, we heard this evening about today experimentation and the fact that sex shops have become one of the most profitable businesses today. And lots of people are going in trying all kinds of things that Satan has introduced into the institution of marriage. Let's stay within the boundaries God has given to us, and we will be safe and have healthy homes and healthy marriages. Again, I can't thank you enough. Thank you, Pastor Uche. Thank you. I feel like calling you Pastor Okoko this evening, but I mean, what you're doing is pastoral because you're providing a lot of support and help to people. We can't thank you enough. I would love to have you back on the conversation sometime. Your wisdom and your insight is just something else. And I would definitely let you know when, but would have you back by God's grace. And to our wonderful audience, both in-house, we thank God for you and for coming, and I'm sure that you've been tremendously blessed. And for those of you who join us through the live stream, would look forward to having you when we have the next conversation. We want you to move from cyber world and be physically here. So we look forward to having you. To the media crew, Susan and her entire team, Comfort and Dolapo, and all of you that are too numerous to name, thank you. When I came in and I saw the bed, I almost thought we were going to have, bedside conversations. But thank you for putting and for conceptualizing all of this and for making our set look beautiful. God bless you. We look forward to seeing you on the next conversation in 2 weeks, and we look forward to having you join our service on Sunday, and it's going to be a wonderful time. Just help me to say to someone, leverage is the word. If you are not here on Sunday, you won't understand what we're talking about. But we'll see you on Sunday, and we'll see what God will do. God bless you. Have a lovely evening.